It's the location and then the terrain that's there because of the karst soil, and it's sitting up on top of a hill, and water runs downhill along with everything else. The DNR is authorizing them to stack that manure outside in the spring of the year. They clean out the chicken houses because that's when there's a demand for the manure. So they can stack it outside for up to 2 weeks. They give them permission to spread tons of manure up there on that hillside that's going to run down in there. The Department of Natural Resources does not control that. We had meetings with the Doyle Childers. He's the director of the DNR, and I asked him the question of what's going to happen to that manure when it runs downhill when they spread it and it runs down and into the waterway. And his answer was they're not supposed to spread it when it's going to rain. So that tells you the thinking and of what they're doing. You know, the forecast for today I don't think was rain. So they can't predict when it's going to rain, so I don't think the Department of Natural Resources can either. You know, they're going to spread it up there, and we're going to have a heavy rain that's going to run into the water. Now, their answer, too, is that once the water becomes contaminated, and once that runoff starts going in there, we can contact the DNR, and they'll come up and check their farm and to find out if it's bleeding into there. But until the lake gets contaminated, until the river gets contaminated, they aren't going to do anything. So, you know, why not be proactive and prevent it from getting contaminated, not just go out and take care of it after it's contaminated. And when they take care of it after it's contaminated, they're going to use your tax dollars and my tax dollars to clean it up. There's a lot of contaminated water already in Missouri, and Berry County has got more chicken CAFOs than any other county, and it's mainly because Georges has a big influence in this county. What Georges wants to do, they get to do. And our complaint is against the DNR. It's the Osmond's farm up here, but our complaint is really not the Osmonds. What they're doing we don't agree with. But our complaint is really not against them, it's against the Department of Natural Resources. Because ordinary people, and until a year and a half ago, I thought the Department of Natural Resources was protecting our resources. But when you get involved with it, you find out that it's a political machine and that it doesn't protect.
You know, maybe I'm a little bit biased and maybe I could be even a little bit uninformed, but to the best of my knowledge, the environmental impact study on the Osmond CAFO permit that was issued by DNR, DNR did the environmental impact study. And it says that it will cause damage, point blank, which raises the question, why did they issue the permit? And as a matter of fact, they've even backdoored the permit process, gone around a couple of state judges, you know, in order to continue them to allow construction, even though judges had issued an injunction to stop it. They just basically ignored the injunction and went ahead and let them start construction. I don't find DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, to really be all that concerned about protecting Missouri's natural resources. They seem to do a really good job of historic preservation of things that people built. But on the true natural resources side, I've never really been terribly impressed. And as a matter of fact, I even know some people who work for DNR who would tell you the exact same thing. DNR does not care about the environment.
Every purple dot on this Department of Natural Resources map is a CAFO that sits on the Roaring River Spring Recharge. Each drop of water that falls in this area has the potential to run into the spring.
We're concerned about the leaching of the chicken manure. There have been other places around here that it has been an issue. But being so close to Roaring River, there is no doubt in our minds, those of us who live here, that it's going to affect the underground aquifer. The beginning of Roaring River comes from a cave where the aquifer comes up to the surface. It's quite deep. They have put divers down there, and they've had a very difficult time locating the bottom. We have no doubt that there is going to be a long-term tainting of that aquifer.
The other situation that you run into with poultry CAFOs is that the science is solid on, but the media never talks about. What happens is, in the ones where they're producing eggs, and that's the primary purpose of the CAFO is to produce eggs, those chickens are fed extremely high levels of estrogen hormone in order to maximize their egg production, which is what estrogen does. Then that ends up via the chicken waste in the water as well, which causes the fish to stop reproducing. The females make all kinds of eggs, but the males can't fertilize the eggs anymore. And so you end up with a whole bunch of sterile fish populations, and it just absolutely destroys any sort of sustainability of any kind of wild fishery. If you're relying on natural reproduction to replenish your fish supplies, and you've got extremely high estrogen levels in the water, not going to happen. In addition to that, at some point that water is reconditioned into municipal drinking water systems, and people are drinking the estrogen.
We're the Division of State Parks. There's also the Division of Environmental Quality. They're the ones that are regulating the farm. And we feel, and our stance is, that that's what their job is, to regulate and make sure that they follow contract. And their contract says this, this, and this, and it will be a no runoff farm. And we believe that they're going to monitor that and make sure it doesn't happen. And if it does happen, they're going to levy the appropriate fines and punishments for that. So we feel like they're going to do their job, and there's nothing that we're going to have to worry about.
And it's a shame because Missouri, in southern Missouri, tourism is a moneymaker. And if we have fish kills here, or the smell from that thing is so bad people don't want to come here to Roaring River, on opening day of trout season, we had more than 3,000 people here. They bought food in town, they bought gas for their cars, they spent a lot of money here. But they're not looking at that, they're just looking at the short end of the stick. And George's